One of my all-time favorite movies, The Holiday, Cameron Diaz's character talks about how she buys books that she knows she has zero intention of reading because she's a hot advertisement lady and doesn't have the time to spend on books. But when she ends up dumping her cheating boyfriend and packs a trip to the idyllic English countryside where she assumes that she will read and relax and enjoy her alone time. That doesn't happen at all. Those books don't get read. But she does end up dating the brother of the woman whose house she's rented, and he's a publisher, so I guess that's close enough. Hey guys, so I am in a new location because I currently hate what my filming setup looks like, and I'm not going to put myself through trying to film in that current location because of kind of what we're talking about in this video, which is the aesthetics of being a reader becoming more important than being a reader itself. Book talk has ruined reading is not a new take. It is very common nowadays to just believe that book talk has devalued the hobby of reading. And I feel like up until like the last week or so, I really felt like that was disingenuous and that was like really taking away from the gift that book talk has given to the publishing industry. And I definitely think that there is something to be said about the reality that the aesthetics of reading are now more important than the actual reality of reading a book and engaging with the themes of said book or the themes of the community at large. So let's go ahead and dive right in, shall we? So I read Silver Elite, and I will not be reviewing it here because, honest to God, that book nearly broke me. I nearly decided that was going to be my last rant review. I do believe the rant reviews will continue to happen. This book very much really drilled home for me that the people that read these particular types of books and don't engage with the themes are not reading books for intellectual purposes. And I've already talked a little bit on this channel about anti-intellectualism and the rise of that specifically on Book Talk, so I'm not going to unpack that here, but let's talk a little bit about Silver Elite, and I will give my thoughts on the book in this video, but if you want my in-the-moment reactions, I have a vlog on my Patreon entirely detailing to you spoilers and all about how much I disliked Silver Elite. So directly from my notes, I'll describe what Silver Elite is. It's a dystopian, smutty nonsense pushing incredibly conservative values, including, but not limited to, anti-education rhetoric, mental health stigmas, both sides seeing a genocide, wrapped up in a shoddy framework with the most annoying characters you could ever come across. Content of the book itself was not the main controversy with Silver Elite. If you were unaware, this book kind of came out of nowhere and it had a huge marketing push, considering the fact that no one knew who the author was. It was a debut name, and then there was some rumors circulating that it was a pseudonym for a New York Times bestselling author. And people have had a lot of fun is probably the wrong word, but have been delving into this person's background, trying to figure out who it is. There's been a lot of claims that it's like Colleen Hoover or some other romance author that don't want to have their name associated with the book. Either they're problematic or, in my personal opinion, I think that they think the book might be problematic, so they don't want to put their name on it. One of the more popular theories is that this was written by AI. I've read the book. I don't think it was written by AI. But I do think we are, as many people in the community have said, we are very, very close to a big five publisher just coming out with a completely AI-driven garbage. And I have a feeling a lot of people will read it just because that's what they think they're supposed to do. People in the romantasy genre who see that a book has spice and a vaguely familiar setting are not asking questions about the identity of the author, nor if the person who wrote it was an actual person or a computer. The entire book for me was really just painful. The thing I will say about Silver Elite was that the reading experience was painful solely because of the strange propaganda it was pushing. There's a lot of talk about how education is a waste of resources, shaming mental illness, and creating like a plot point around schizophrenia that was just super uncomfortable to me. And on top of that, there was, once again, the same carbon copy romantic characters that have nothing in common and just want to bone each other. That was the entirety of the romantic chemistry. I thought we would have maybe an interesting reveal at the end. We did not. It was incredibly predictable and very poorly written. And on top of all of that, there was this notion that the author, or whoever it was that wrote this book, was pushing that the oppressive regime was actually better than the people fighting against it. That's where it really just kind of jumps into the deep end of normalizing being in an oppressive society in a way that just really felt incredibly tone deaf during this administration. And I don't know if the publisher wanted this, but it really feels like they did. And I have decided that my theory about Silver Elite is that it was written by a troll. I don't necessarily know why it got published, but the attitude in the book is so aggressively... What am I trying to say? Condescending. That's what I'm trying to say. The book feels condescending. It feels like it's talking down to its audience. And a lot of the romantasy books feel like that sometimes. But this one particularly, I was like, we already know he's hot. Like, we've heard that the main guy is hot like 20 fucking times before they even really have a conversation. Why is it like not even at least trying to elaborate on the world even a little bit? And then some of the shit, like with like the one of the countries being very much inspired by the drug cartel, like, and smuggling drugs, but it's okay, it's not racist because the main character might have had ancestors from that country, so it can't be racist. Yikes. And on top of that, the main thing that like motivates the character is not getting back to her like found family. She doesn't really give a about them, actually. Her main motivation is to just not go back into solitary confinement. And I felt like the entire time when I was reading it, the main focus of the story was to make sure she never separated from the hunky guy. It was always him that was the main point of the story. And it was very much telling like the reader that the point of the story is for her to be with this one guy. And then at the end, it's basically established that they know everything about each other. They just didn't know that they'd been talking to each other the entire time they were kids. And that's such lazy writing! Speaking of hunky guys, let's pivot to a different thing that happened on Threads this week that has become quite a scandal. And we're going to be talking about Luke Baitman.
Hey, I'm Luke.
And here's my thing. I don't technically have any ill will towards this person. If you've not heard about this guy, apparently he was a rugby player, ? But he was also on The Bachelor, and within less than 2 months, maybe even just a month, he managed to conglomerate like 200,000 followers on TikTok and a 2-book deal with a big publisher, even though he doesn't have a manuscript. So let's come back to the aesthetics of reading. We've already talked about the fact that the content of the books that a lot of people are reading, specifically on Book Talk in this romantasy section, have conservative values. We've already talked about that a little bit on the channel as well. But the books themselves really only tell the reader, you need to find the hunky guy and you need to stay with him. And now we have a situation where I'm on TikTok. I have seen lots of book content in the last little bit. I didn't even know this guy existed until this whole book deal started blowing up on Threads. He likes fantasy. I think he is genuine when he says he likes fantasy, but I also think that he knew exactly what he was doing when he came on to Book Talk. Book Talk is summoned. And I'm sorry, I just feel like it's really frustrating being in a community where a lot of people have to work so much harder than someone who gets to sit in their tractor, doesn't need to bathe, doesn't need to think about his background. He just gets to just be a hot white guy. And all of a sudden, all of these women who have been taught that their only goal is to find a hunky man and like thirst over him, not be in a good relationship with him, just be thirsty over him. And now this guy is like, oh, there's no barriers to getting into reading or writing. Sir, I'm going to need you to think before you speak. That's wrong. And many people were educating you on it after the bubble that was your 200,000 fucking followers broke. I like the fact that I do have notes for this script didn't script it out entirely, but I'm not going off of them. So I hope this is an interesting video for you guys. Speaking of my notes, let's read this one verbatim. So long story shorter than I usually would make it, but I genuinely think that publishing is just trolling us in general. I think they know exactly what they want to publish, be it AI drivel, or white boys who wear Carhartts and break up with their reality TV girlfriend less than a month after the TV show finishes, less than a year. I'm not quite sure. I didn't look into that quite as much. Who apparently might have submitted to a publishing house an idea of a book, concepts of a book, if you will, a year before he decided to actually make a book talk account. And then less than a month after having a book talk account, he has that publishing deal? Disgusting! It's giving grift. I'm sorry. Like, he might be a very nice person, but it takes a certain breed of people to go on a reality show, especially The Bachelor, and you're trying to tell me that he's going into book talk completely out of the goodness of his heart? Kind of tie up the entirety of this video, there was something that obviously came out of any scandal that comes into the book threads world. And that was basically saying like, hey, if you read a book, you're going to tell the publishing house that you want more of that book. Or if you are angry at this guy for being just another fantasy fan who ended up being lucky and getting a deal, you're performing your anger. If you're only being angry in the community, you're being performative. And I saw a very well-known romance author saying this, and I think I have beef with that author now. I don't particularly care for the way that they handle things. And I distinctly feel like it is so minimizing to marginalized voices who have to work so much harder to make it into traditional publishing and indie publishing, when books that don't even have a like an author behind them, like Silver Elite, or a guy who just happens to look pretty in a fucking Carhartt and a goddamn tractor, is making things happen without actually putting any effort into it. Lots of creators on this platform put so much effort into their videos, and it is incredible to see. And then they don't get an ounce of recognition. Yes, there are people that rage bait their videos that spend a lot more time talking about the drama or the scandals of book publishing. But publishing has scandals, and I don't know what to tell you. People like to gossip about. And these are two things that I feel like we should be able to talk about without being told, hey, watch your tone. Watch your tone. Like, especially as someone with like a pretty decent like backlist, like maybe not telling people that they're like jealous of a guy who didn't even have a manuscript ready for his publishing deal. No, we're not gonna do that. Personally, that's my personal opinion. I did put in my notes that it's not performative if it's systemic. This is a systemic problem that keeps marginalized voices out of publishing. And if we're gonna just accept that this guy who went on The Bachelor is not grifting, not even a little bit, when he put in his like concept of a book to a publisher like 6 months to a year before starting book talk because he never heard back. The guy knew what he was doing. Let's be fucking real. You don't go on The Bachelor unless you know you have the reality TV conventional attractiveness, which works really well with the 200,000 followers that he garnered in under a month. Like, that's just insane. My call to action here is very simple. If you are going to talk about things in the world that we are in right now, maybe think about what you're saying and how you're saying it and whose voice you are stampeding over when you say it. The reason why I make these videos is because people that look like me are in a bubble. I didn't know about Luke Baitman until he got his publishing deal, but 200,000 other women did, and I feel like there's enough of us on the internet right now who are trying so hard to just get a word in edgewise when it comes to things like this. And when big name authors are saying, oh, it's performative, that's where it really grinds my gears, because once again, people that look like me should probably not be speaking over marginalized voices when it comes to situations like this, because we do have less like obstacles to getting into publishing. And that doesn't mean that your voice isn't worthwhile, but think before you speak. And that's why I'm making this video. I've thought about what I wanted to say, and I wanted to express it. What are your guys' thoughts? I really do think Silver Elite was written by a troll. And Luke Baitman, I'm not reading his book, and I'm gonna block him. I don't want to deal with that guy anymore. I don't think he's a bad person, but I do think he might be grifting. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. I'm gonna go now, guys. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Bye! If you don't look too closely, I can pretend I have one of those emerald green couches that are like way too expensive.